Olá, boa noite, bem-vindo à FM Entrevista. E hoje recebemos o general Supio Enhada, ex-comandante militar, foi chefe das Forças de Defesa Sul-Africana de 1998 a 2005, foi ministro também das Comunicações de 2009 a 2010, entre outros cargos, e hoje é alto comissário aqui em Moçambique. A quem cumprimento desde já, bem-vindo ao programa.
Obrigado.
Como é que estão as relações entre Moçambique e também a África do Sul? Sabemos que já estão há muito tempo a cooperar com Moçambique.
Well, we've had a strategic relationship with Mozambique. In fact, preceding our democracy, but post-democracy, we intensified our relations with Mozambique. We were invested in the Cabora Bassa scheme, electrical scheme. South Africa invested there ages ago, and following our democracy, we invested together with Mozambique in the development of the corridor, the Mozambique-Maputo corridor, N4 corridor. We invested in Mozal. We invested through Sasol in the Romco pipeline, as well as many other investments, because of the strategic relationship we have with Mozambique and the need for us to work together with Mozambique on our joint development and the development of Mozambique.
E também temos que trazer esta relação e olharmos para aquilo que é esta relação económica mais industrializada. Sabemos que a África do Sul é mais industrializada e Moçambique posiciona-se como um dos principais players no setor de energia. Como pode-se cruzar o modelo de desenvolvimento económico?
The main areas of interest between South Africa and Mozambique are, first of all, energy, as you say, and I indicated our investment long ago in the energy infrastructure of Mozambique. We invested, we have been asked by Mozambique to participate in the Pandankua electrical scheme recently, and we are considering that. We have invested a lot in Mozambique, in the gas finds in Mozambique. The Development Bank of South Africa, Sasol, have invested a lot in the development of the blocks that exist in Mozambique to help the countries, both countries, to grow.
Esta é a avaliação económica entre Moçambique e também África do Sul. Por outro lado, quais são as áreas de interesse económico entre estes dois países?
Well, South Africa has many interests, and I think those interests are mutual. First of all, the development of the port and the use of the port of Mozambique. We've got interests in energy development and exploitation in Mozambique. We've got interests in tourism. We've got interests in the financial sector, interest in communication. We have got so many interests in Mozambique. There are so many. We help Mozambique with the growth of this sugar industry. We help Mozambique in all aspects of the economy of Mozambique.
Estas são as principais áreas de interesse entre a África do Sul e Moçambique, que bem descreveu aqui o embaixador. Mas, entretanto, há uma área em que o embaixador foi focalizado, sendo a África do Sul a economia mais industrializada da África, e Moçambique já se posiciona como um dos principais players no setor energético. Como pode-se cruzar o modelo de desenvolvimento econômico?
Well, there are many experts who propose economic integration between Mozambique and South Africa. Because South Africa, as I indicate, South Africa is a neighbor of Mozambique. South Africa is infrastructure from its territory into Mozambique and has got the possibility to develop further infrastructure with the cooperation of Mozambique into Mozambique. It has got the N4, it has got the possibility to develop other routes, to develop possibilities of using other modes of transport other than the main one now, which is logistics, transportations by vehicles. South Africa has got enterprises who have got reserves of cash that they want to invest wherever their returns will be realized. And Mozambique is one of the countries where this can happen. And it is proposed by many that, in fact, economic integration between South Africa and Mozambique is the best for both countries.
Esteve aqui também a falar da Estrada Nacional número 4, que liga Moçambique, neste caso Maputo, e também a Pretória na África do Sul, e vai aumentando o volume de negócios entre estes dois países, vai desenvolvendo estes dois países e este corredor que acaba sendo muito importante para os dois países. Qual é o volume de investimento da África do Sul em Moçambique e também as áreas prioritárias?
Well, it's very difficult to quantify the volume of investments from South Africa to Mozambique, because most of the investments are done by private sector. As I speak, there are many South Africans who are talking to Mozambicans to form joint ventures in order to invest, whether it is in mining or in the retail sector and many other sectors, forestry and so on. So it is, and those people don't even sometimes tell the South African government or the South African High Commission that they are here to invest and how much they are investing, because some of those things they reserve for themselves. What we know, of course, is that there are many other institutions of a public nature, like the Development Bank of South Africa, like SASOL, who make these investments, which are into their billions, public, and interact with the embassy in order to inform them of this.
Olhamos para estas áreas economicamente que possam ajudar os dois países a desenvolver, mas por outro lado, algumas zonas de penumbra nas relações económicas e políticas entre Moçambique e também a África do Sul. Muitos são os moçambicanos que foram assassinados em atos xenófobos na África do Sul. Pode comentar um pouco relativamente a este assunto, não só relativamente a atos xenófobos que muitos moçambicanos foram assassinados, mas também, por outro lado, nestes últimos acontecimentos relativamente aos carros que tenham matrículas de Moçambique?
You know, to perceive whatever happens in South Africa with respect to Mozambican citizens as xenophobia is beyond me, because South Africa and Mozambique and Mozambicans have had quite a long relationship, friendly relationship. The people of Mozambique built that economy of South Africa in the mines. They worked in the mines. You know, Teba here, they built South Africa. They helped build the economy of South Africa in the mines of Johannesburg, with other Southern African countries like Swaziland and Zimbabwe. Mozambicans died on their way to work in those mines in South Africa. And we have had relations with Mozambique that were very friendly, with Mozambicans that were friendly. When South Africa became a democracy, there were hundreds of thousands of Mozambicans in South Africa. Those Mozambicans were, according to the government of South Africa, to become part of South Africa. Of course, things happened that it actually did not materialize in some instances, where some of them did not even receive the necessary identifications. But South Africa embraced Mozambicans who were in South Africa at the time of democracy. So there is no way in which South Africans deliberately can target Mozambicans in xenophobic attacks. It does happen, of course, that sometimes there are conflicts, just as there are conflicts between South Africans themselves, seeking to carve themselves a living, seeking to compete with others. And some of instances we have witnessed which seem to suggest a xenophobia, but it is not xenophobia. It's people competing for resources. It is unfortunate, but it is in no way true that South Africans can become xenophobic against Mozambicans with whom they have lived for so long. I know people from Mozambique who lived in my township, and relatives of mine who got married to Mozambicans. So there is no way, and many other South Africans also. That's why we call Mozambicans, sometimes you find South Africans calling Mozambicans Sibali, which means brother-in-law, because we don't have any attitude against Mozambicans, hate attitude against Mozambicans, because they helped us to build that economy. We built that economy together.
Depois do esclarecimento deste assunto relativamente aos assuntos xenófobos, há que também entrarmos para um outro campo, mesmo da justiça, onde houve uma batalha judicial no caso da detenção na República Sul-Africana, concretamente no aeroporto Oliver Tambo, a 29 de dezembro de 2018, do antigo ministro das Finanças, Manuel Chang, que acabou sendo extraditado para os Estados Unidos da América. E vamos saber até que ponto a nega da justiça sul-africana em dar provimento ao pedido de Moçambique criou feridas nas relações entre Moçambique e África do Sul.
The extradition of the former minister, Mr. Chang, to the United States can in no way affect relations between our two countries. The extradition was effected after a court judgment. That court, in South Africa, we have a system where the judiciary is free from interference by any other arm of the state. Government cannot interfere in the affairs of the conduct of the judiciary. So too Parliament. So we have distinct entities of state. And in no way can government interfere in the decisions of the judiciary. I am sure that the government of Mozambique had spoken to and requested South Africa to have Chang brought brought back to Mozambique. And I think you know that it is in fact not the South African government who prevented Mr. Chang from coming to Mozambique. It is Mozambican entities who went to court in South Africa and prevailed upon the court not to send Mr. Chang to Mozambique. I think you should know that. So it shouldn't cost, because South African government and Mozambique had spoken about this thing, and South African government perhaps was willing to do so, but it is subject to the rule of law. So the South African government itself is subject to the rule of law and cannot interfere in any judicial matters.
E na opinião, como pergunta de insistência, na opinião do governo sul-africano, o que terá pesado para esta extradição de Manuel Chang para os Estados Unidos da América?
I think there were representations between the government of Mozambique and the government of South Africa over the period of the incarceration of Mr. Chang when he was arrested in South Africa. After he was arrested, there were continuous representations between both governments. But in the end, it had to be, because it was a matter that had to be adjudicated by a court. I think you recall that there was a decision by South Africa to do that, which to extradite him to Mozambique, or a consideration of that, because at the request of Mozambique. But it is Mozambican entities who intervened and said they are afraid that if Mr. Chang is returned to Mozambique, he will not receive the justice that is necessary for him to receive in a court of law in Mozambique. It is not South African entities that went to court in order to achieve that. And it is Mozambican entities, non-governmental entities, who then prevailed in the court. And the courts of South Africa looks at the matter in an unbiased way, in an impartial way, and gave the verdict that he needs to be deported to the United States. It may not have been in South Africa's best interest, or the government of South Africa's best interest, but South Africans don't. South African government does not interfere in the judicial processes of the country. We have an independent judiciary.
Fica para trás a guerra judicial entre Estados Unidos, Moçambique, e também olhando para aquilo que foi mesmo a África do Sul, o papel da África do Sul relativamente a esta extradição de Manuel Chang para os Estados Unidos da América. Por outro lado, Moçambique, neste caso, concretamente, a província de Cabo Delgado, está na mira dos terroristas desde 2017, qual a estratégia regional que deve ser adotada no combate a este mal, a este fenómeno, evitando que se alastre para outras regiões.
South Africa and the whole region were sufficiently concerned about the development of the insurgency, terrorism in Cabo Delgado, to a point where I think, to a large degree, they prevailed upon Mozambique to accept that Mozambique was unable at the time to deal with this phenomenon itself. And they proposed to Mozambique to intervene through the Southern African Development Community. And they then, after considerable time of discussion between themselves and Mozambique, I think in 2021, there were several summits where, in the end, it was agreed by SADC to deploy the SAMIM force, Southern African mission in Mozambique, SAMIM, with contingents from Tanzania, South Africa, Botswana, Lesotho, and other countries who came in later. So it is because of the concern that everybody had in the region that this thing could spread to their countries. Of course, now it has come to pass that there was agreement again last year to lapse this agreement, or rather to end the deployment of the SAMIM forces in July of this year. So on the 15th of July, there is going to be a termination of this operation. But South Africa and the region had thought for themselves that it is important to try to stem this tide of terrorism emanating from the north of Mozambique, and therefore decided that its own sons, the sons of the region, would come, and daughters of the region would come here and sacrifice their lives, because some of them died during the process of deployment here in Mozambique. So Southern Africa sacrificed and contributed to the stability that we began to see after their deployment, and the steady erosion of the capabilities of the terrorists in the north in the northern province of Cabo Delgado. So I think we did a lot to try to stem the tide of the growth of this terrorism or insurgency in Mozambique.
Ainda relativamente a este assunto ligado à província de Cabo Delgado, falamos do terrorismo. Sabemos que há bem pouco tempo os Estados Unidos indicaram que há figuras ligadas ao terrorismo que estão a viver mesmo na África do Sul. Mas esta questão só vamos saber e ter a resposta logo após o intervalo. Até já.